All right. So we had talked a little bit about planes, and I know it can be really confusing. So let's see. So if you draw in, I don't know if I'm going to draw anything complex enough in a few minutes. Okay. So say we have this square. Okay. If you look at it right now, you can see on the bottom is the work plane. Okay. So wherever the grid is that you see, that's the work plane. Okay. So if I want to change the work plane because I want it, and this is a very simple object, so it's easy, but if I want to work on this specific plane and create something here on a complex object, there's multiple ways I can do it. I can either look at it from the front, right? And so see how the work plane disappeared, the grid disappeared. So what you'll do is you will, oh, it's not showing. You'll show on your coordinates here under 3-point, you'll change it to view. Now this plane will be active and you can utilize that. If you wanted it to be on the side, right, you could change it by view again, okay? So it just shows you an indication of where you have access to manipulate and add things to. Another way you can do it, if you have an angled face, so let's see, let me draw in like a wedge, okay? And look, see how it's drawing on that plane? All right, so now instead of it being on the bottom, when I drew the base of the wedge, it's on this side because now that's where I placed it. So then if I wanted to put something on this face, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to place that. I'm going to have to know the angle of it, and I'm going to have to know specifics about it to do it. So you can, but if you want to specifically use that face and that angle, you can do it by, hold on. Let me put it in conceptual so you can see it. No, let's put it in X-ray so you can see it a little better. So you can move it by face. Do you see how that's lighting up now? And I can just accept it. And then if you look at it, it is aligned specifically with that base. So no matter what I do, I can draw on that face, and everything that is being created kind of is conceived on that face, okay? And if you look at these two, it's right there, right? Now I have this pyramid. That's awkward, right? And if I use this face, the pyramid's face, and accept it, now it's on that face, okay? And if I go past it, it's below it or above it. So if I want to start a line, that's where it's going to start from, on that face. And you see how it's trying to go out in alignment with the grid that's there, okay? So that is typical. That's kind of how you have to manage your faces. And you see what happens to your view cube over here. It starts to align a little more awkwardly, so to speak. So if you ever get into a spot or a predicament where you're not where you want to be, you can go back to world coordinates and it'll bring it right back to where you started, okay? With it on the bottom, aligning with the X and the Y, and your shapes on top of it. Specifically look at the rectangle because that's where we made that one, all right? And we made this one when we had changed we had changed the work plane to the other plane, the other axis, I guess is the best point for it. So I would stick with view and face. Now you can use 3-point, which would basically be picking 3 points on an object. So say you wanted to integrate 2. Do you see how that's not really on the face of anything, but it is integrating this wedge and that and this pyramid. Okay. So that's very awkward, but you may need to create something that is on that plane that attaches those two pieces, those two objects that you created. So you may need to do that. So a 3-point would do that for you. But with a 3-point, you have to dictate what's going to be your X, what's going to be your Y, and what's going to be your Z. And that's it. And then it'll lay it down on there. And again, if it gets confusing, you can go right back to where you started, and then you should be right back in the regular world of the world coordinates. Okay. And this, don't forget, this little house will bring you back to a 3D view, an isometric. However, a lot of times it'll bring you back into perspective mode, and perspective is a horizon line. If that happens, you should be able to see, I'll bring this up so you can see it, this little arrow that appears. If the little arrow appears, you click it, type in parallel, or not type, but just click it, and it'll go right back to where you're comfortable. Okay, I hope that helps.